Rose Lemay joins me now. Rose is CEO of Indigenous Reconciliation Group. Rose, thank you as always for giving me your
Oh,
time.
glad to be here, Angie.
This search is so critical. There's a dollar amount that's been put to it. These families, that means absolutely nothing. Talk to me about the process here, and why we're not seeing the immediacy that we need to see in this case.
Well, I don't know why we're not seeing the immediacy to this. When some of our most vulnerable citizens have gone missing in Jacksonville, Florida in 2009, in Colorado in 2019, in Georgia in 2022, Australia 2023, all of these other municipalities and state governments did emergency action. They put their best detectives on, they did the best they could, and they searched the landfills.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we have not done so is an appalling lack of leadership on behalf of the Winnipeg Police, the City of Winnipeg, and the province. It's almost beyond words that there is no action yet.
What about going back to when these women were reported missing? There's the argument, of course, that had their action been taken at that time, we wouldn't be where we are now. And this landfill and other landfills perhaps would have already been excavated, would have been looked at in detail, investigated.
Well, as the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls report found story after story after story across this country that when Indigenous families ask for help from the police, we don't necessarily receive the equitable level of police that other families might do.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we might be completely refused to receive the support of experts, detectives. We might actually be completely dismissed from police forces. I'm not entirely sure what happened. The story is really not clear
Mm-hmm.
in this instance, but it certainly took a long time from when these two and potentially two other women went missing sometime in the spring of 22, all the way to December 2022, until the police chief finally said, "We think this is where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not searching." And it was just it's speechless. It just makes me speechless. I
Yeah.
can't imagine that in this day and age that would be the response. It would not be the response if these kids had come from an affluent neighborhood. This is what racism looks like in Canada. This is absolutely what racism is.
We've talked about as well the relationship between the community and the police. We know that in a number of communities across this country, there are now the calls, the question, action in some cases of having community police services specific. And we know that that is the case in some Indigenous communities as well. Is that part of the solution here when we're talking about real protection of young women and of women and young girls, of Indigenous background in these areas where we're not seeing that protection right now?
Well, I don't think this is a new story, though, and this is
Right.
what is quite difficult. When Honorable Wally Opal, led the inquiry on the Picton murders and investigation, which also were met with tremendous delay and a lack of belief by police services. And one thing Wally Opal said is that these women have been left behind by both police and by society.
Mm-hmm.
We actually, as a society, need to take responsibility for the fact that Indigenous women continue to go missing, continue to not be served with respect. What will make that shift? Police forces will be a part of it, but we also need to demand more from our provincial territorial
Mm-hmm.
leaders, from municipal leaders, and perhaps even of ourselves. These are our neighbors. These are our kids' children, and we need to look out for them as if they were.
We're going to follow this story very closely to see where things go. And of course, that pressure for answers and final some level of closure for these families is extremely important. Rose, thank you so much, as always, for giving me your time. It's always, you're just so gracious in doing so. Rose Lemay, CEO of Indigenous Reconciliation Group. We'll speak again soon, Rose.
Thank you, Angie.